Hey, what's up, card fighters? So I am profiling my GREEDON Mask deck. This is the GREEDON Mask deck that it works best for me. I know there's like basically like a standardized version of this list in Japan, and I'll tell you what cards or what cards I'm running at more copies of, and what cards I'm not running at all in this deck versus Japan. That I just found like there's just certain cards in this deck that just like if you not running it, it lets you steal games that if you do play these cards versus not playing these cards. Whereas you're just playing more copies of like Dragon Tree guys just to have more searchers off of when you activate the mask order and so on. But standard GREEDON Desire Devil Ride line, it's more important now than ever that you do run the complete Desire Devil Ride line. I know in the past we weren't running this. We were running like the grade 1 we were playing the grade 1 Steve, because he made a rear guard for us, and that was just really important in like early stages of GREEDON. But now we're past that, because GREEDON Mask only requires you to suck up 3 rear guards. It's just it's way easier to generate that, and because again he needs 3 Desire Devils and Soul, and the easiest way to achieve that is just your natural ride line. Going on, I'm gonna start with the mask engine first, because there's like this deck has 2 different engines. It has your mask cards that work with GREEDON Mask and help you get to GREEDON Mask, and then you have your Desire Devil cards. So I'm gonna go off the mask cards first, just because this is GREEDON Mask. 4 copies of GREEDON Mask. This is your new boss unit of the deck. There's really nothing much to say here. You want to run him at 4 copies because it is very important that you see him and you're able to superior ride into him. I will argue that even if you go first, it's very important that you do superior ride into him, just because in this version of the deck, it's just, even though I am running more Desire Devils than normal, it's really hard to activate old GREEDON's restand ability without cucking yourself of GREEDON Mask's restand ability. But 4 copies of GREEDON, and then we're playing 4 copies of the Mask Order. Not 4 copies, 3 copies of the Mask Order. The reason we're playing 3 copies is you want to search it ideally at least once. Ideally, you want to search it like at least twice, or hard draw into it if you don't see your searcher. But yeah, 3 copies. It's not a unit card, so you don't want to max out on it. I have thought about maxing out on it because there's a lot of times where I damage checked it. But as long as you see at least the 1, you're pretty much golden. And then 4 copies of Dragon Tree Maker Boy Skull Chemical. He's what gets you your mask. He's what gets you your Dragon Tree marker. It's really important in this deck that you establish 2 Dragon Tree markers in the front row, because the way this deck plays is you basically play without a back row. Sacrificing your back row so that you're able to swing with your Vanguard twice, essentially. So yeah, that is these are the 11 Dragon Tree cards I'm running. I know people like to run 4 copies of the grade 1 Dragon Tree card, like Shredder Demon. It just never came up. He was just a name to search off the order card, which I'd rather activate GREEDON Mask's ability to top 7 search a Desire Devil. I'd rather have that resolve more often than have like the mask resolve for like a random Dragon Tree unit. Like when you activate the mask, you want to see GREEDON Mask. That's basically your bread and butter. Like if you could search something else, cool, but you rather just see this. And no extra GREEDONs in the deck, just because this is like the minimum, in my opinion, this is like the minimal mask engine you could play. And it's really important that you max out on your Desire Devils, because if you don't see this by turn 3, you kind of have to play like very basic, bare bones old GREEDON. So it's very important that you do suck up Desire Devil rear guards, that when you do ride GREEDON Mask, you still have those 3 Desire Devils in Soul to be able to activate his restand ability. But 4 of the new bird, what this does is it basically replaces your grade 2 of the ride line, because you're wondering, the grade 2 of the ride line doesn't work with GREEDON Mask, so you don't really play it in the main deck anymore. This basically says that it counts as any Desire Devil in deck. So you're able to search this off of your grade 2 of the ride line. I'm maxing it out on 4. What I saw was most lists were playing it at 3 or 2. I'm maxing it at 4 just because it's a 10k shield and it's a 15k beater. And then 4 copies of the Desire Devil Goat. Now this is really good in the deck just because it gives you the utility retire and it gives you that 2-card guard restrict. It only activates it when you bind it from soul for the battle that your GREEDON Vanguard attacked. For that battle only. It's not like a turn-wide 2-card guard restrict like Goomin, but it's still very good. Like, I find more often than not the retire ability comes up way more than its 2-card guard restrict. The 2-card guard restrict comes up just as much. Like, it's better to have it, not need it, than seeing it, not have it. And I've used it quite a ton. But I prefer Goomin's guard restrict just because your rear guards aren't really that powerful by themselves. More often than not, your rear guards are going to be, on Persona Ride turns, maximum 30k with the Dragon Tree marker. But going on to the rest of our Desire Devils, I'm playing 4 copies of Desire Devil Frog. An important thing to note about when you're playing Desire Devil Frog, if you Persona Road that turn and you called him after you Persona Road, you must Soul Charge 1. The Soul Charge is mandatory. It's just like, it's come up a bunch of times to where it's like I would accidentally forget it, or a good friend of mine, shout out to Jason, he plays this deck and he would accidentally forget it all the time. Back when he used to like play this deck like really well. He doesn't really have a chance to play Vanguard as much anymore. Really sad. I wish he did, but you know, it is what it is. Life. But yeah, 4 copies of this. Just because for CB2 he gives you 5k and an extra drive check. Extra drive checks are nice. So yeah, we're really maxing out on this. You really only use your counterblast for. So the last Desire Devil we're playing is max copies of Desire Devil Goomin in the main deck. The only things that counterblast in this deck is Goomin, the Frog, and Skull Chemical. And more often than not, you really only need to resolve Skull Chemical once. And then the rest of your 6 counterblasts, because you don't play counter chargers, and because of GREEDON's skill, you die at 7 damage instead of 6 damage. So you have 6 counterblasts without healing to basically use however you want. So it's okay to use cards that cost 2 counterblasts. It's okay to use Goomin multiple times in this version of the deck. This is where people would play the Dragon Tree Shredder over the extra Goomins. There was a lot of games in my personal playtesting with this deck that just having that 2-card guard restrict also applied to my rear guards is what more often than not won me games. There was games where I was just able to like basically swing my opponent in the face enough times with the 2-card guard restrict that eventually GREEDON broke through. But more often than not, it was the rear guards that were going in for the kill, which is what I found personally. But you're running this is 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. You're running 15 main deck Desire Devils, and again, it's really this deck. You really aren't doing anything unless you're riding into the mask GREEDON. That's why it's important to hard mulligan for him and to hard mulligan for the mask or the mask searcher, because it's just really hard to play. Because the old GREEDON requires you to soul blast 2 before you soul charge 4 rear guards. So if you're soul blasting 2, it's really important that you soul charge at least 1 Desire Devil, and that's why I'm choosing personally to go over the consistency of extra Desire Devils in case I'm not able to get there. And going on to the rest of the deck, 4 D Perfect Guards. The reason that we're playing D Perfect Guards instead of like the Blitz Order PG is GREEDON is just one of those decks to where you really need all cards in your hand to be unit cards. That's why I've thought about maxing out at 4 of these. I've tried maxing out at 4 of these. I really like it at 3. 3 felt like the best number to whereas I can't just damage check 2 and then like that's the game. But yeah, you really want these to be unit cards, so it's just really important that your PGs also serve as unit cards. So yeah, 4 DPGs. And then for the triggers, we're playing 8 vanilla crits. You don't really need the into soul crit here because the only soul you care about is 3 Desire Devils in your soul. The rest of your soul is irrelevant. So 8 vanilla crits. You don't need the into soul crit whatsoever for this version of the deck. You're never boosting. Never boosting. You're always just playing with the front row. 4 vanilla heals. You guys know how I feel about effect heals. I haven't felt like we've gone into like a really heavy meta or format to whereas like the effect heals are super warranted. I feel like they're okay 1-ofs or 2-ofs. 2-ofs is pushing it in my personal opinion because, again, I've lost games because of the effect heals. I've never said, hey, I won this game because I had this effect heal for a specific scenario. So I would rather just have them be 15s all across the board. I say this in every deck profile, but 3 of the effect fronts, you don't want to play draws in this version of the deck at all. You actually can't get away with it because you're doing so much searching and deck thinning. And so much deck thinning, searching, and drive checking from searching Desire Devils, searching your mask order, searching your GREEDON. You actually go through the deck quite fast. So you really can't play draws. And fronts are actually very beneficial in this version of the deck because you're essentially playing the game without any boosters. You're just swinging with your Vanguard twice and then swinging with your other rearguard columns unboosted. So fronts are actually warranted to check in this version of the deck. And then one of the Dark States OT. This feels like the only deck left that actually still plays the Dark States OT. But checking the Dark States OT and GREEDON has always been like godly. Like it turns the deck from whatever tier it was. Like when this deck came out, tier 3, checks the Dark States OT offensively. Oh, it starts to feel like tier 1 now, doesn't it, buddy? Especially with those 2-card guard restricts. But yeah, that is my my GREEDON Mask deck profile, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna be basically like shoveling out all my set 11 deck profiles now this week, so that way in the next week or 2 when set 12 comes out, I'll be fully ready to give you guys that set 12 content. But anyways, guys, later.